Okay, so introduce yourself.
My name is Bezancon. I am the founder and president of Placecast. The latest product that we have released is called Shop Alerts, and what that does is that as a user you get a text message that informs you of something that a brand that you have affinity with and that you have opted into the program of will tell you about. That's probably, hopefully useful to you because it's relevant in place and time.
I know that's what we were talking about. You know, you're not only passing on offers, you're also kind of passing on the brand. Where you had, I think it was North Face, who would, if you went to a mountain range, or
a ski resort.
I lack ski terms.
Yes. So the idea is that once you understand what the technology can deliver, the technology gets forgotten, and what matters is the user experience with it. And when you are the North Face and you want to entertain an extended relationship with your consumer customer who already likes the brand to the point that they have asked you to tell them things, then you try to reach them in situations where something useful can be said to them because of what they are doing. So location becomes a proxy for activity or mindset.
Okay.
And if you are buying North Face sports equipment and you are a fan of skiing, well, North Face should be able to talk to you when you are skiing or when you are at the ski resort, and not necessarily push products like a down jacket. It could also be like some of the stuff we're doing, telling you that it's going to be cold today, and that you should put a couple more layers on. It's not necessarily directly marketing a product to you. It's associating the brand with useful information.
And how is that working so far? Because I remember you launched Shop Alerts 3 months ago?
We launched commercially in February, so that's 4 months ago, and we ran a bunch of pilots the second half of last year. Which is where we got incredible data out of running those pilots in terms of the user's experience of it and how much, how productive it was for them to be able to get those messages and to act on them. Again, the premise is relevance and usefulness. And if it's relevant and useful to me, it's going to be predicated again on place and time. It doesn't need to be every day. It needs to be whenever it's relevant, and sometimes it's not. There's no message for a week. So the measurement also of the effectiveness of the program is not by the volume of messages that are sent to you. It's, do I have something interesting to tell you, my consumer? And if so, what is that?
How do you measure the relevance? Like when you're just passing on a branded message?
So this is the art of it, and we're still early in the process, but relevance is about intent on the consumer side, which is, okay, if it's a Saturday morning and I'm near a shopping mall, chances are I am in my shopping of the week process. If I am close to lunchtime and the brand that is talking to me is a restaurant brand, well, maybe there's a correlation there. So relevance depends on context, and this is relative and variable. And that's what's interesting about the technology we've built, is made to understand that better and being able to incorporate it and automate it so that you can tell the system, I like such brand and I would like to, for example, in the case of the North Face, I would like to receive messages about skiing and not about surfing. If you want to drill down, maybe you will or maybe you won't, but then you let the consumer drive that experience. What we have also realized is that Shop Alerts works with SMS as the medium that delivers the message. And at first, people who are in the business are a little taken aback by the simple and a little bit not sexy vehicle. But the reason we do this is twofold. The first one is you can send an SMS to every phone, meaning you can reach 100% of the population, which is what marketers want. They don't want to be limited to the 9% of the population who have an iPhone.
Those people are building for iPhone, and maybe also they're building for other OSs, but you're basically...
Well, they are the future, but the present, which is where we play, is not that. And my conversations, I was last week at a conference about location-based services in Latin America. Latin America, 80% of phone service is prepaid, which means I have zero information about my subscribers. I don't send them a bill. They buy a device and they recharge with a code, and that's it.
So they're anonymous. And
the phones are 6-7% feature phones, like very basic phones. Talking to people who are working outside of the US, and particularly in countries that are less developed than Western Europe and North America, more than 100% penetration of phones. People have more than one phone in average. But they don't have a computer, they don't have fixed broadband. So this is also the understanding the context.
Right.
So in the West, we went through these 25 years of, from the Minitel to the beginnings of the web to what the web is today. There are a lot of countries where the web is still a rarity, but everybody has a phone or two. And most of what we have been learning to do with the web is going to immediately translate into phone interaction for the vast majority of the world population. So it's like leaping above this whole broadband and computer that's tethered at home or at work and moving into a whole other universe of that thing that I carry with me.
The one thing that I still don't understand, geofencing 100%.
Geofencing is the fancy word for you draw a circle around an area that is, for example, in the case of retailers, it could be the area where the proximity drives people to come to that store versus another store. So depending on the nature of the business, it's going to be a small circle or a big circle.
Okay.
For McDonald's type restaurants, there are a lot of them, so it's a fairly close proximity.
How important is that for marketing? Like the
radius?
Yeah.
Well, it matters because when you have shopping malls with very large, Walmarts and Targets and Home Depots, you don't have them as close to each other as you have a McDonald's or a Starbucks. When you have once a month replenishing at Target, you're going to drive 10 miles to the shopping mall, right? So the radius of the zone where I'm going to be interested in receiving a message from a particular retailer is going to be dependent upon the type of product, the frequency of purchase, the price purchase. So this is what we're learning.
Kind of like a car dealership always blasting you when you're in a 10-mile radius. You want.
Well, and again, forget the blasting piece because this is an interesting point. A lot of the early marketing done with text messaging has been picking up their own cues from display advertising, which is from TV and newspaper, which is I want to talk to as many people as I can, as much as I can. And what we've realized is that the experience on the phone has nothing to do with traditional media. The phone is an extension of me. Any other form of media is acknowledged as a publisher talking to me.
So how does one change their marketing strategy for that? You have to completely
rethink it? Some brands are already fairly sophisticated and have thought about it, tried things, and are starting to understand the nuances of it. But it's very early. It's for all the talk and the sort of discourse in the press about all these iPhone apps and et cetera. The reality of the matter is that it's a business that's 2-3 years old. Right. The iPhone is 2 years old. So
and we still haven't even figured out the internet.
And we have not figured out the internet. But what's important is to understand the differences. And usually, as in any other evolution or revolution, and we can talk about that, there is the imitation and the comparison with things we know, up to the point that it's become familiar enough that you can start moving past. So mobile today is the big difference between the mobile of a few years ago and the mobile of now is not the voice part. It's the data part. It's the access to the internet part. It's the mobile browser part. And every interaction that individuals start having with their phones beyond voice becomes an experience in, this is not like the web, this is not like TV, this is not like... So the difference, the marginal difference, if you will, comes through more and more as more and more people try new stuff. And this is the introduction of location into the conversation is paradoxically a way to attach reality to the experience that has become more and more virtual and digitized. And that's really what the premise of the company. Placecast is about using place. That's in the name of the company. And the simple idea, the root of it all, is we are always in one place at one time.
But now, I mean...
And now you have this internet thing.
Right.
How do you tie all that information that's floating around on the internet and the speed at which things can be published and changed, and that reality that I'm here now, and how I make that useful? Because it's not going to be commercially successful if it's not useful.
Right.
So it's about defining usefulness in context. It's back to human behavior, which is what's closer to me probably matters more to me than what's far away. And this is true not only geographically, but it's also true in time. Right? So you have a very simple place and time graph, right? And the more you go away from the center, which is here now, the less relevance there is. So how do you go back to here now and understand how that can impact me, and what do I want? What do I not want? Because this is the other part of it, back to blasting things. I do not want 95% or 99% of what is shown to me. How?
And you also want it very quickly if it's location and time.
And you want this permanently accurate. That's why the technology behind all what we do is very complex. So place, time, and then subject. So what matters is me, and we're definitely moving into an era of power to the consumer, which is good. And if it's power to the consumer mixed with understanding what I may be interested in based on where I am and when I'm there, then we're back to the user saying, this is the type of information that I would like to access under these conditions for that purpose. The one crucial piece, if you back out and you look at the grand scheme of things, is when telecommunication cost goes down, people communicate more. It's that simple. So we have seen this with email. We're now seeing this with voice, and we're going to see it with the equivalent of email for the phone. There is no question as whether or not it's going to occur. It's when and how quickly, and what is going to be the economical reality of it. But it's going to be absolutely normal for you to have that thing with you that you can talk, that you can look at, that you can ask questions to, and that is going to give you information.